Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. JCDC Festival Song Competition back on. Part 2 of a special report on why it's bad to cut down trees for protests. And later in sports, Reggae Boys to face Mexico today in CONCACAF Nations League. I'm Giovanni Dennis and here are the details. Up first, Jamaica will have a festival song competition this year after all. The announcement was made today by Culture Minister Olivia Grange during the Jamaica Diaspora Conference this morning. Our reporter Anthony Lugg attended the function and now joins us live. Anthony.
Thanks, Giovanni. So the government has been facing the heat since last week after Culture Minister Olivia Grange announced the cancellation of this year's festival song competition due to the poor quality of the more than 120 entries. Amid mounting concerns, the matter was deliberated at Cabinet yesterday after Prime Minister Holness said he would intervene in a bid to find a solution. This was Culture Minister Olivia Grange at the Jamaica Diaspora Conference this morning.
Listen for this, ladies and gentlemen. We will have a festival song competition. What we have decided to do is to create a narrow window of 1 week and to invite new entries. And I have been networking the industry to get good producers, good songwriters, and performers on board so we can come up with 10 songs.
Meanwhile, opposition leader Mark Golding welcomes the development. However, he argued that news that the country couldn't produce quality songs in the year of Jubilee reflects a weakness in the area of culture.
The minister has, scrambled around now to try and leverage our contacts in the music industry to try and find some entrants so we can have a competition. And, I commend her for that. And I hope it will be a success. But as I said, the fact that the normal processes haven't worked is an indictment really on where we are in terms of our music. And we need to do something about that. I think we need to focus on why it is that we're not generating the kind of quality that we used to enjoy year to year. At the end of the day, festival songs are the most lasting aspect of any festival. Many of those songs have lasted for generations. So it's not a small matter. It's a very important matter for the Jamaican.
We'll provide those details and more in primetime news this evening at 7. Giovanni?
Thanks so much, Anthony, and of course we look forward to that very interesting story. To other news, a man who was ordered to pay more than $700,000 in legal fees to the Firearm Licensing Authority, FLA, has been granted permission to challenge the ruling in the Supreme Court. To challenge the Supreme Court order, that should be. The Supreme Court had ordered Kevin Bertram to pay the FLA $750,000. Details from Prince Moore.
The matter stemmed from the FLA's rejection of Mr. Bertram's 2 applications for a firearm license, one in 2012 and another in 2018. He sought leave to apply for judicial review of the FLA's decision. This was heard in the Supreme Court last year and was denied. The court ordered that he should pay the legal costs of the FLA. Mr. Bertram appealed the decision and challenged several aspects of the rulings against him. Among other things, he argued that he had a strong prospect of success because the FLA failed to provide him with sufficient material to explain its decision to deny his applications. He argued that this prevented him from making a meaningful representation before the review board. But the Court of Appeal disagreed with his position and also pointed to the late filing of his appeal. It ruled that he had no prospect of success on the core issues, except the challenge to the order for the payment of the FLA's legal fees. The court then ruled that the appeal can proceed to challenge the $750,000 bill. Prince Moore, Radio Jamaica News.
The Forestry Department is now adding its voice to the debate about the impact certain protests have on the environment. In the final of a 2-part report, Sandy Williams explores whether it's lawful to cut down trees for protests.
Cutting down trees that are not under the tree preservation order is not illegal, but depending on the circumstances, it can be an offense under certain legislation. Philip Cross is Principal Director of the Legal and Forest Enforcement Services Division at the Forestry Department.
It would be an offense under the Main Roads Act or the Parochial Roads Act. It would also be an offense if you cut trees in a wetland area. That's where the NRCA would come into play. It's also the Malicious Injuries to Properties Act. It also constitutes an offense under that act and is subject to jail time.
While the Forestry Department is tasked with managing and conserving Jamaica's public forest resources, it is not empowered to charge offenders for cutting down trees outside the established forest reserves.
But in other circumstances, it can fall to other agencies. So, for example, NEPA, or the Natural Resources Conservation Authority, and the Town and Country Planning Authority have jurisdiction in certain cases. The NWA has jurisdiction in some cases, and the municipal corporations have jurisdiction.
The National Solid Waste Management Authority, NSWMA, can also hold people accountable under the Anti-Litter Act.
The way the trees, when they use it to, to whatever form the protest took, normally they walk away and leave it. So that now becomes litter. And under the Anti-Litter Act, we have prosecuted and we will continue to prosecute people who litter, whatever that litter is.
However, Executive Director at the NSWMA, Audley Gordon, laments the state-run entity does not have adequate enforcement officers. Peter Espute, an environmentalist, is suggesting that all trees, especially the ones along the roads, be put under the tree preservation order to hinder the illicit practice.
What we've got to do is put a tree preservation order on all of those trees on roadsides. So if anybody cuts it down, not only are they breaching the Anti-Litter Act, but they're also breaching what I believe is the Town and Country Planning Act, which is where the tree preservation orders would come under.
Also bear in mind that there are legitimate reasons why you might want to cut a tree along a roadway. So quite often, for example, JPS may need to cut trees that are overhanging power lines or approaching power lines. You might have a tree that's termite infested or that is encroaching on buildings and creates other hazards. And so unfortunately, at times it's necessary to cut trees. So just declaring them all within a conservation area wouldn't necessarily solve that problem.
At the NSWMA, we are seeking through the Ministry of Local Government and the Ministry of Finance more resources to do better public education. We have not done as good a job as we could with the public education, and we need to step up on that.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
The debate around the Bail Act continues to rage, with members of the Clarendon Municipal Corporation now at odds with each other over the proposed changes. Details in this report from Cody and Barrett.
The JLP-led administration, through the Minister of Constitutional Affairs, Marlene Malahoo Fort, has indicated that changes will be made to the Bail Act as the legislation needs strengthening. Councillor for the Thompson Town Division, Colin Henry, welcomed the proposal. He believes the changes could benefit crime-hit parishes such as Clarendon.
It is something that we must strengthen. It is something that we must give support to, because it's needed in this time. Several encounters out there, where it is proven that persons who are on bail continue to reap havoc among communities. The evidence are there. The evidence are there.
And while calling on ordinary Jamaicans to support the push to improve the Bail Act, he chastised members of the legal fraternity and human rights groups for opposing the plans.
Human rights group and other agencies or other body condemning such proposal which not even table in the house as yet. I have to be wondering if we're living in the same Jamaica. Because the state that we are in, some of our laws are outdated. And for sure, it needs more teeth. I would say it's something that we're operating on a source of gum now. It's true, some of the laws are source of gum. They have no teeth, they are They're not biting any at all.
But one member of the PMP caucus said while he is not opposed to improvements to the bail law, he does not want the changes to be done due to desperation resulting from the spiraling crime problem. He warned that poorly thought out changes could negatively impact future generations.
And I would not like to see we as lawmakers put laws in place that affect our children because of certain things happening. Crime is against all of us, even the criminals, because some of them do crime and don't know how effective and how hurtful it is to their family and to themselves. They only know when some of them got the gunshot or some of them gone to the prison or whatever it may be. That's the only time they know. So it's a danger to all. And we want to see enforcement. We want to see the law in place to deal with them. But what we don't want is to see the constitutional right of us as a citizen be trod upon.
Cody Barrett, TVJ News.
And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when you return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. The bodies of two unidentified men were found at a construction site off the Innswood Main Road in St. Catherine this morning. Both had bullet wounds. Several spent shell casings were found at the scene. Crime officer for the St. Catherine North Division, Detective Inspector Balvi Thomas, says investigations are ongoing into how the men got to the location.
We got information about two bodies on the ground, and we proceed here and observe two bodies on the ground. Early days yet, we are still searching for information to find out what exactly happened.
And it's 2 males, right?
It's 2 males.
I know you said the early time is what person passing, saw the bodies are alerting the police.
Well, it's information. I would not want to say, oh, we got that information, but we got the information and we came here and that is what we saw.
Inspector Thomas also gave an update on a shooting on Jones Avenue in Spanish Town on Sunday.
In Succumb, we are far right in that investigation, and we are now identifying possible suspect to further the investigation.
And for a look in the financial world, here's Cody and Barrett with the Business Minute.
JMMB has announced that it will increase interest rates on variable loan contracts to 1.5% effective August 1. According to its CEO, Keith Duncan, with inflationary pressures, the commercial bank will have to be reflected in an interest rate pass-through. Inflation as at April 2022 of 11.8% was higher than the outturn in the previous month and represented the 9th consecutive month that inflation breached the Bank of Jamaica's BOJ target range of 4 and 6%. And in business overseas, the UK government has published plans to get rid of parts of the post-Brexit deal it agreed with the EU in 2019. It wants to change the Northern Ireland Protocol to make it easier for some goods to flow from Great Britain to North Ireland. But the EU opposes the move, saying going back on the deal breaches international law. The protocol is the part of the Brexit deal which keeps Northern Ireland in the EU's single market for goods. Britain's government maintains it is acting within international law, but the EU has threatened to retaliate, raising the possibility of a trade war between the two sides. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Barrett.
Time now for the top regional and international stories with Sandy Williams.
In the region, the Belize Forest Department said it is reviewing all visitor safety protocols in the Mountain Pine Ridge recreational areas to address any potential gaps. This after 2 children drowned in the Nature Reserve Park over the weekend. Police are investigating the tragedy for which no details have been disclosed publicly. Meanwhile, the Forest Department is warning the public about the risks of swimming in the Mountain Pine Ridge recreational areas. The department said in the coming weeks, a public awareness campaign will be initiated to remind visitors of the risks associated with recreation at the sites, as well as safety measures to ensure a safe visitor experience. Belize's Mountain Pine Ridge is a nature reserve in the Caillou district of southern central Belize. It was established in 1944 to protect and manage the native Belizean pine forests and covers a little over 1,000 square miles. On the international scene, in the United States, authorities in Texas are investigating after an armed man tried to breach a summer camp. The mayor of Duncanville says the man was looking for a woman. Police were called and the suspect was shot and killed. Officials haven't said if the gunshot wound was self-inflicted or from an officer. The campers were moved to a different area. None of the 150 children at the camp were hurt. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
And we now head to another break. When we come back, Jermaine Brown will have the midday sports.
Welcome back. It's time now for your lunchtime sports. First up, serving our football. The Reggae Boys will be looking to maintain their spot at the top of Group A in the CONCACAF Nations League when they take on Mexico at the National Stadium this evening. This will be the Reggae Boys' third game of the competition, while Mexico will be playing their second match.
If the Reggae Boys needed a boost ahead of their matchup with the Mexicans, they got it in the victory over Suriname. But as good as that win was, the oppositions are like day and night. The Mexicans, in their only game to date, have beaten Suriname 3-0. Now it's down to the sharpest shooter.
I think we need to improve in our ruthlessness in front of goal. I really do believe that we need to tidy up in most areas, really. We're at home and we've got some really good players who, when they're on their game, they can beat a team and really make a statement.
But for the Jamaicans to beat the Mexicans, Coach Paul Hall says they must be able to keep 10 players on the field.
If you noticed, I had a tiny little bit of hair before the last game, the Mexican game, and then when Damien got sent off, it all went. It was just that stressful in that game because we were so close, and I feel we're getting closer to Mexico and closer to beating them. So it's important that we keep everybody on the pitch.
And the Reggae Boys will not be going into the game blind, as Hall says he has done his homework on the Mexicans.
I've watched Mexico about 4 times now, and I'm going to watch them when I finish this press conference. We've got our own plan. We've got to, really get at them in the areas where we believe that they are strong, or sorry, that they are weak, and really try and stop them from getting at us in the areas where we feel they're strong. So, yes, we've got a plan.
Match time is 7 p.m. Jerome Foster, TVJ Sports.
Some cricket news now. Jamaica's women will be hoping for a big win when they take on the Leeward Islands women in the Cricket West Indies T20 Blaze tournament this afternoon at the Providence Stadium. This as they seek to boost their fading title hopes. And they'll also be hoping the unbeaten Barbados lose to Trinidad and Tobago's women in their match, which is currently underway at the same venue. On Monday, Jamaica went down by 25 runs to the Bajans in their top-of-the-table clash. Set 130 to win, Jamaica were restricted to 104 for 6. Captain Stephanie Taylor top scored with 26, while Chanel Henry got 24. Batting first, the Barbados posted 129 for 4, led by West Indies vice-captain Hayley Matthews, who made an undefeated 74 from 63 balls. To the course we go now. The Golden State Warriors are 1 win away from a 7th NBA title following a 104-94 win over the Boston Celtics in Game 5 on Monday night. The Warriors lead the series at 3-2 and can claim a 4th title in 8 years with victory in Game 6 of the best-of-7 contest in Boston on Thursday. Andrew Wiggins led Golden State with 26 points, while Klay Thompson added a further 21. But Steph Curry, who starred with 43 points in Game 4, missed all 9 of his three-point attempts on Tuesday. Curry had never before gone without a three-pointer in 133 career playoff games. Jason Tatum scored a game-high 27 points for the Celtics, who had led the series 2-1. And that's where we get off of the courts with your lunchtime sports. And I am Jermaine Brown.
Thanks, Jermaine. Well, that's it indeed for the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon.